Breaking news: dependency on the internet has taken a toll on teenagers. Social media has taken a huge chunk of their daily lives, and like every other good thing in the world, too much is too bad, and we call it social media addiction. Welcome to the one and only Psychology Show. I'm your host, Natalie Zuccara, and you're watching Kids Need Therapy. Welcome again to Kids Need Therapy. On this show, we gather the brightest, thrill-seeking intellectuals around the world, equipped with the best theory or practice to help us understand psychological issues and discuss about kids who need therapy. Today, we're looking at a worldwide crippling issue faced by thousands or maybe millions of teens called social media addiction. Why does this happen? How did it come about? Tons of questions gathered by the conscious public trying their best to understand this issue. Victims of social media, parents, grandparents, teachers, and world leaders, you're in for a treat. But first, for all you viewers out there, let us watch a clip of a teenager we interviewed to get insight about how bad it really is.
Hey, my name's Jason, but you can call me Jay. It all started when my friend sent me one or two TikTok videos. It's kind of boring at first, to be honest, but I really love the dances. It really got to me, and I think I'm a natural in dancing, so I can't really control myself.
During the lockdown, I had nothing better to do, so I started watching TikTok videos. And eventually, I got involved in making contents. As a content creator, I love to dance, and my passion is being seen by so many people. I'm getting more and more attention, more followers, more likes and comments. I average about 100 likes now, and I almost have 1 million followers. Yeah, you can call me TikTok famous. And being famous, I guess, just really have to live up to the hype. So I dance every single day. I post videos, 10 videos a day, and I practice every single day.
Give me the TikTok, faster, it's a good time to post. Come on.
Okay.
Recently, I just feel like every second of my life has to be on TikTok. I think my friends are tired of me, but I just can't help it. I must post every single day.
I realize I'm not myself anymore. I really want to be the Jason. You see, I just really can't control myself anymore, so I just really want to be normal again. And I just don't want my friends to discard me. People now know me as Jason, that's the classy, bougie ratchet. Yeah, it's just something that I really want to acknowledge, and I think it's getting part of me, and I really, really wish to come back to my old self. Yeah.
Okay, I do not know what I just watched. But anyway, let's get straight to the main segment of the show, Psyched. We'll have Mr. Josh as our moderator this segment.
To better understand these kind of social phenomena, we'll move on to our next segment called Psyched, where we bring in psychologists from 2 different schools of thought to talk about the current issue.
In this episode, CBT and choice theory supporters were asked to engage with each other to discuss and talk about their perspectives on social media addiction. Here's what went down.
My name is Professor Hong. So I'm a psychotherapist and a choice theory of school of thought. So nice to meet you guys.
I'm Dr. Dana. I'm a full-time therapist at Global Psychology Center, and I specialize in CBT.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sally, a professor from University Bantudia, and I support CBT.
I'm Dr. Gilbert. I'm a psychologist at University of Toronto, and I do research mostly on current mental health issues, and I support CBT.
Hi, I'm Fatima, or I go by Emma, and I've been a reality therapist for over 7 years now, and I support choice theory.
Hi, my name is Professor Devin, and I specialize in choice theory from the Macquarie University.
So, now beginning with our first prompt. Social media is an essential part of humans' life. If you agree, turn on your cameras, and you may discuss.
Okay, so I think in this generation, social media is very important to a certain extent, where in this generation of teenagers and youngsters, they require this social media for many different purposes.
Yeah, man, definitely. I agree with Hong. I think Gen Zs in general for this generation definitely got so much from social media, and I even know cousins building their business profiles that could reach international levels.
Yeah, I think the same too. Gen Z now use social media to build businesses.
I think people even look for their true love online nowadays.
Anyone disagrees with this?
Okay, I understand all of you guys' opinions, but I just don't think it's true. I disagree because the general population does not need social media to function.
Yeah, I totally would agree with what Emma said. Like, I disagree with this statement. I think it's not true. I won't consider it as a basic human need in the current time, because I believe that even without social media, life can still go on. In fact, dependency on social media might be maladaptive. It's more destructive to one's mental health. So yeah.
I know someone who is addicted to social media. Anyone?
Yes, I think it's very quite prevalent, as what Devin just mentioned about the Gen Z category.
Yeah, I do, unfortunately. I think despite the benefits of social media that all of you have mentioned, I think it's still very pervasive and obvious that to a certain extent, social media is vast and somewhat unpredictable. And when combined with human intention to use it, I think addiction is just out of the charts.
Yeah, my niece is addicted and she's only 13. She's 13, so I have to agree with what Devin said, that it is very unpredictable.
I guess I have to say yes too. In fact, I know a case that was so severe that it resulted in suicide. I'm not trying to breach any code of conduct here, but what I'm trying to say is social media addiction is a real thing, and if it's not handled properly, it may lead to severe mental illness and even suicidal behavior.
Interaction through social media feels much better than in real life. Anyone agrees?
All right. I think looking from the third-person perspective, people engage in social media and build an image of themselves and receive repeated positive reinforcements, right? Well, which are gratifying actually. Perhaps positive reinforcement is more often perceived through social media compared to real-life interaction, especially in the current MCO season where you don't get to see people face-to-face. So like the feeling of gratification that you can feel through social media, that is so instantly. I mean, like you have nothing to prove. I think it's very, it gives you so much good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on this statement because based on the choice theory, I think social media is able to fulfill our basic needs. For one, I think social media platform is very prevalent and very useful to fill in the need for love and belonging. The more connections of people we have and the availability to simply talk at any time, for sure, we or they, people who use social media will definitely feel better about themselves.
Yeah. I think Devin and Gilbert done a very good job in explaining the basic needs. I think Choice Theory also says that maybe like social media also give us a lot of freedom, and we can use this social media as a platform to create, work, and develop the perfect self, given the freedom to work in a very big amount of opportunity to learn. So I think social media reflects our improvements and achievements, which have been corrected to imply competence in the social world.
Anyone would like to step in?
I think it depends on the environment and the type of person you are, because maybe someone who has low self-efficacy and no confidence will think social media is better, but if you receive good positive reinforcement in real life, you'll think real life interaction is better, so I won't choose any step.
My school of thought best explains social media addiction.
So for me, like personally, I don't want to offend anyone. Other than the behavior itself, CBT actually looks into the thinking process of a person, which may result in the behavior. So, for example, we can take classical conditioning, which falls under CBT. Under classical conditioning, there is positive reinforcement that a person can gain by using social media. So, for example, when they post a photo on Instagram and a lot of people like their photo or comment, this might lead to the high risk of addiction because they have this constant desire to get that gratification from people. So unlike CT, we don't just look at the fulfillment of the needs. We look at how society's actions can form a person's behavior or shape a person's behavior, just like how social media addiction can develop at the perceived positive reinforcement that people give. So it gives them a good feeling.
Dana, I agree with you, but I really do not. I have to stand the point that you think choice theory is limiting the process of fulfillment of needs. But I think it's not that simple, but it's definitely not simplistic. I think to understand social media addicts' emotion, for example, requires the basis to understand how their basic needs were first affected. And therefore, the aspects then come into play. For instance, social media addicts tend to satisfy the need for power and the aspect of achievement when the need for love and belonging could not be fulfilled. This explains the internal motivation and for the individuals to seek self-promotion and status gain through social media by posting lots and lots of selfies to gain more and more influence.
I actually agree with the notion of conditioning, like what Dana said, but I also have to say that the idea of CT, having said that all behavior is purposeful and therefore we are responsible for our own behaviors and decisions, it makes sense when an addict chooses to cling to social media.
All right. Does anyone want to interject?
All right. I mean, I support CBT, and I totally agree with what Dina said. And yes, CBT has a lot of theories, and I totally support it. And there are a lot of theories that may explain social media addiction. But I think it is contextual. I believe that there's not one size fits them all. And I think it's subjective. Yeah.
Wait. We are talking about your opinion. I don't think I'm supporting you. So I think choice theory is a very good platform to start with all types of addiction. So in most cases, addiction is caused by unhappiness, and there's an issue with social media where people or users cannot differentiate what's real or what's fake, and is incongruence of viewing one's life as perfect in social media while comparing to others. So therefore, it creates an imbalance of needs and wants which develops into unhappiness, very prevalent in our human society.
Social media addiction can be considered as a mental illness. Who agrees with this?
I think William Glasser's viewpoint proves to be too strong for a statement to disregard all mental illness. Of course, accept all the biological components that causes mental illnesses. But it's very important to take precautions before we label someone with certain mental illnesses, and in this case, the social media addict.
Yep, I think psychopathology in CBT point of view would classify social media addiction as a mental illness because, of course, their thoughts about themselves are distorted. The people who suffer from this condition, right? All right, and this actually affects their self-schema. I think it remains an ideal improvisation to label social media addictions as mental illnesses to draw the line between, to differentiate between the addicted and the ones who are not.
Yeah, I have to agree with Gilbert. I think it's also true that not everyone is addicted to social media, and people with social media addiction only represents a small minority.
Yeah.
Anyone that disagrees, your turn to speak.
Okay, sorry guys. I actually strongly disagree with what you all had said. So because perspective of the choice theory, it doesn't really classify people into illnesses. Also, not right to neutralize the symptoms of addiction. So what William Glasser's point of view is choice theory strongly claims that mental illness do not really exist at all, but emphasis on how we get to be completely responsible for our emotions and behavior.
Yeah, I would totally agree with Hong. I understand that I'm coming from the viewpoint of choice theory as well, but I have to clarify that not all psychologists would agree to William Glasser's strong point that their mental illnesses do not exist. However, I think choice theory is a very good start to eliminate the effects of labeling people with mental illnesses. And this might sound agreeing with the cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, of the notion of self-efficacy, where I strongly agree that one person having the ability to, or knowing that they have the responsibility to make the change is very encouraging for them.
I don't think that social media addiction is a mental illness, but I do think that pre-existing mental illness can cause social media addiction. There's a case study in 2012 shows that someone who suffered from depression and low self-efficacy developed social media addiction due to the formation of all in or nothing statement, where he believes that he will always be treated badly in real life.
Social media is a healthy escapade to increase self-love. Anyone has any thoughts on this?
I agree. I believe that this can be explained through the ABC model by Albert Ellis. For instance, the A, the activating event, causes the individual to have the belief, which is the B, the belief that social situations are difficult and unchangeable. This results in the emotion of loneliness and sadness, which is the C, the consequences of this event. And this ABC model can reason why the individual turns to social media, where there are no real-life interactions and they can totally ignore unwanted conversations. So I guess you can say that social media, if used properly and controlled, can be a healthy escapade to increase self-love.
Does anyone disagree with this?
Okay, so I'm very disagree what you said. Because for an individual to be fully aware of their intentions to turn to social media for self-love may be a form of unhappiness. So therefore, I think turning to social media for self-love will not be really healthy, but rather a form of compensation.
I agree that social media can be an escapade, but not necessarily healthy. A case study found that someone who perceived his self-worth online as they make more friends and receive positive feedback, develop an excess usage of social media, which leads to social media addiction. The individual also faced depression and had negative self-schema. So, and also perform all or nothing statements that he believes that people will always reject him, then he's always worthless. I guess although it can be an escapade, it's not necessarily healthy. In fact, it could be more destructive to if the person develops unhealthy automatic thoughts, such as automatic FOMO, for example.
There are so many factors to contribute to the formation of social media addiction.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think, as mentioned from the choice theory being the best to explain social media, it really makes sense that there are so many factors to consider for, especially it's not that simplistic. So I would say that, just for instance, based on the choice theory, an individual may be addicted to social media for the longing for love and belonging, or another seeking to fulfill the need for power, and it could be both. It can go both ways. However, it is wise to consider the external motivations posted in CBT, which could be a very prominent factor compared to just veering from the idea of an individual's own quality world.
I've always agreed with the fact that there are a lot of factors contributing to one particular thing. I believe that there are a lot of factors. For example, distorted thoughts about themselves based on their self-schema due to stressful life events, traumatic experience perhaps, rejection by society, awkwardness. There are so many reasons why people turn to social media nowadays. Same as the motive behind the usage, I believe there are many motives behind the formation of addictive behavior as well.
Anyone would like to counter these points?
I have to disagree with you guys because I think that social media addiction should keep it simple, whereby this choice theory sufficiently addresses the needs of one's life, and I think people should be aware of their individual needs in regards to this social media. Based on research, some of the needs such as freedom, power, and love and belonging would be most salient in handling oneself to prevent themselves from engaging too much of this social media, and also knowing when to stop using it.
The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a major contributor to social media addiction.
Yeah, I'll go again first. I think unfortunately, I think that this statement is fairly through the use of social media can be maladaptive. And when entering the phase of addiction, and when people are addicted to social media, they sense the priority to satisfy the need for love and belonging. And once the unconventional relationship through social media has been formed, they create a sense or a priority to reach for power. And with power, there is a need for achievement, acknowledgement, and therefore, they want to gain more influence.
Actually, I totally agree with Kevin. So actually, failure to fulfill love and belonging will lead to unhealthy functioning teenagers. So where people strive for attention and status because of unrealistic virtual relationship, perfect relationship that cannot be completely fulfilled. So thus, they're having a need to continually post and gain acknowledgement from their friends through social media.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. And to add on, I think unhealthy functioning teenagers with high neuroticism show insecure attachment, and then they develop the social media addiction.
Just to add on a little bit from the CBT point of view, I think FOMO is an inaccurate automatic thought that individuals base their information processing on this particular automatic thought of FOMO, that they will miss out on certain updates from their friends or their family on social media. So they keep going back to social media and checking on it, which causes excessive usage, which can trigger addiction to social media.
I mean, as previously discussed right before this, right, there are a lot of factors related to social media addiction. Factors like low self-efficacy, traumatic experiences like social rejection, and many more may contribute to social media addiction. So I don't think that it is fair to single fear of missing out as the only major contributor. There must be reasons behind the formation of FOMO in the first place, like perhaps social rejection.
I believe that there is a way to prevent social media addiction.
Yes, I think that there is a way to prevent social media addiction. There will always be a way for anything. That's my personal opinion. Social media addicts have to work on their face-to-face communications. I think that's a big problem. So when they start getting the courage to practice and do that, they may not see social media as the only means of communicating. They will start looking into in real life connections. So providing alternatives and using practical measures such as the ABC model proposed by Albert Ellis, it could explain why the addicts function as such, or why they run to social media when there is adversity.
I'm so agree with what the statement. So as mentioned by Emma, so as always, CT seems that we have the responsibility for our own behavior, and therefore we incorrectly conceptualize the priorities of all needs. It will cause unhappiness, and sometimes it will cause by the repression that we continue with me to commit in social media to feel safe and secure, knowing what our needs will always be constantly satisfied.
Yeah, I do think that we as humans have a drive and motivation to do certain things. And with the help of a little bit of encouragement, as applied to the concept of self-efficacy in CBT, truly derives that everyone can make a difference with some help.
Does anyone have any different thoughts and ideas regarding this?
I think this statement requires a reflection of individuals' past. I'm a firm believer that there are a lot of factors contributing to the development of this social media addiction, and the past shapes the person's self-schema, and that it could be the root to understand why people have higher tendency to become addicted. Distorted thoughts from the past could be represented as something that could not be amended unless attended. Therefore, I think people's past could just be an issue that prevents people from being addicted to social media.
Yeah, I agree with Gilbert. I think that's an amazing point, actually. The past does affect your decisions, and to a certain point, your quality world would determine or develop a higher tendency for a particular need. So individuals exposed to social media that yearn for certain needs, like love for belonging and power, would have a higher inclination towards social media and could result in addiction.
Well, that was a wonderful and informative session, don't you think? We've learned a lot today from these two schools of thought, choice theory and CBT. One thing's for certain, we can all agree that social media addiction is a huge problem nowadays. It has its roots and causes, and we now know the preventive measures that we can take in the future to curb this addiction. Well, that's all from today's segment. Now back to you at the studio.
Thank you very much, moderator. Audience, now the decision has come to your hands. Which theory you've learned today best helped you understand social media addiction? This marks the end of our show. Remember to tune in to Kids Need Therapy on Psyched for our next episode of Psychologists Discussing Current Issues.